it's me again. We're here at some house in Skåne. I don't really know who lives here, but let's go have a chat, see if we can find any information about buying a house in Sweden. Let's go. There it is. We're here today with my dad. You just bought a new house.
Yep.
Again. How many houses have you actually owned?
This is the 7th house.
So 7 houses. How often do you move?
Normally, I live in the same place long time.
Okay.
But the last 7 years we have moved 5 times.
Then you should be an expert in buying houses. So what are the most important things to consider when you're buying a house?
Where it's situated, because you can't move it.
Okay.
So where it's situated, location. Don't only look at the house and what's inside the house, because that you can change yourself. But the outside, the view, the area, and so on.
Could you shortly just explain the process of buying a house?
Sometimes it's really easy. You find a house, ask who owns it, and then you buy it. Sometimes it's more complicated. You're looking for a house in a certain area and then discussing with the brokers, and then in the end you find 2-3 different houses that fulfill your requirements.
Okay.
And then someone else wants the same house. You start a bidding process, and then you must know this is our limit.
Yeah.
Because it sometimes moves really fast.
Yeah.
And then you just add another 50,000, and all of a sudden
it feels like nothing, but
yeah, you have to pay it in the end.
yeah. Does it get easier with time? You said this is your 7th house, so how does the 7th time compares to the first time buying?
You know the process. If you know the process and you know your requirements, then you have sort of the start for a plan. And then you have to find your limit, and then you can start the process. And the most important thing is don't put a certain time limit, so you're forced to buy a house and to be in this bidding process just because you need a house.
Okay, so it's not like we need to buy a house this year,
No.
but it's more like within the coming years we are looking for a house in this area.
Yeah, that's
this price range, this size, and so on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes it takes maybe a year or 2, but this time the process was really quick. I would say this process this time was maybe 4 months, but we did find our house, and it fulfilled all the requirements. And we also managed to sell our house that we owned, because that's also an important thing.
Yes.
Before you buy and pay your house, you need the money, and that means you have to sell your house.
Yeah. I assume you've owned apartments too before you started buying houses. What would you say are the main differences between owning an apartment and owning a house?
You must be prepared that you need to do more maintenance when you have a house, and there are more things that you're responsible for to take care of yourself. Even if you have an apartment that you own, still there are things in the house that are taking care of the maintenance compared to when you own your own house. If something is broken, if you need to cut the lawn or something, you have to do it yourself.
When it comes to like fees and
Yeah.
what you're allowed to do.
Sometimes you have a lot of liberty when you buy a house to do different things, but it also depends on how old the house is. There might be some restrictions what you can do and not do. In an apartment, there are restrictions in what you can do because it's part of a building and everything should be similar. You cannot just change a window. Here you are probably allowed to change windows without asking anyone. The buying process, when you buy an apartment, there are not that many extra fees. You know more or less the total price when the bidding process is over.
But
when you buy a house, you have a registration fee, stamp tax, and these types of things, and that's maybe 100,000 extra on top of it. So you must prepare for all these things. And also things might be broken that you didn't see when you looked at the house. So you need some sort of buffer to take care of these basic things.
Okay, but if we compare single freestanding houses to like chain houses, you've owned both. Are there any big difference between those kinds?
Well, normally the neighbor is quite close when you buy a chain house. Here we have a couple of 100 meters.
Yeah, I think it's
depending on which direction. So that's a difference between the different houses, and that means you have the liberty more or less to do whatever you want in your garden without anyone complaining. If you want to plant a tree, it's no problem.
But the process is mainly the same?
Yeah.
But for chain houses, could there be like an association similar to when you live in an apartment? So that there will be a fee that you have to pay, or they don't really have that?
Normally not. It's a yearly fee if you own some land together. Because in a lane house, normally there are small streets within the area that's owned by you as a community. And all the maintenance of that, you pay a fee.
Okay. Here
it's I have to pay for the road as well to take care of it. Because it's my road.
Yeah. What was the reason for you to start buying houses instead of apartments? Because there are apartments that are big and close to the city, but you chose to buy a house.
It has to do with access to the nature, to be a little bit outside the city center and so on. I've lived in a couple of city centers as well, but normally it's more relaxing. When you're finished work, you go home and
you see the nature on the way and you come home and
and you have some time to relax on your way home as well. To go through what have you done today, what's on for tomorrow. Okay, now I close this day and go home.
Since you enjoy like living in the middle of nowhere, have you ever considered just buying a piece of land and building a house yourself?
That depends what you mean consider. We've thought of it, but it's even more complicated process. Depending also on the area. You can buy land together with a manufacturer of houses. So you have 3-4 different basic models to choose between, and they prepare everything for you. So you have in the beginning land, but you have bought also a house at the same time. That could be an idea, because then you can make it exactly the way you want it. But still, we have always found a house that fulfills our requirements more or less. So it has not been necessary. Also, close to a big city, when you buy a piece of land, there are 20 neighbors that are also buying a piece of land, and all of a sudden there are 25 houses. Here we know no one will build a house close here because it's our land.
But you could build a house. So if you wanted to build another house on the land you already own, or modify your house, expand the house, then you need to apply for something called bygglov, planning permission. Could you just quickly explain that?
You have to first ask, is it okay with this size? Because there might be a plan for the area, size of buildings and what it should look like. And then you need to make a construction plan so that they are sure that this house will work to build. And then you need someone to control the process, sort of approve the different steps. And then you get the permit, and then you build the house, and then they look at it and say, okay, this is more or less the process.
Okay, that was all the questions I had for you today. Thank you so much for inviting us to your house.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed our conversation here, and subscribe if you want to see more. See you next week. Bye bye.